Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Eve Marie Bessenbach, and I will be your moderator for today's session titled Book Club Leadership Development. I am pleased to introduce our presenter, Leslie Warden. Leslie has worked for Morningside College since 2006, and she has served in multiple roles, including Director of First Year Studies, Chair of Writing and Rhetoric, and Department Head of Humanities, which is her current role. Leslie was inducted into the Morningside Circle in 2008, and she currently serves as the faculty advisor. Please give her your undivided attention, and Leslie, I will turn it over to you.
Great, thank you, Eva Marie. I am not going to be doing the majority of this. I've got two students here with me today and our circle coordinator. So I'd like them to just introduce themselves as well, and then we'll go ahead and get started with our conversation about leadership development in the form that we did it, which was book club. So let's go Greg, Tim, and then Trey, and then we'll get started.
Hi, my name is Greg Gelcher. I'm a professor of history at Morningside College. This is actually my 25th year at Morningside College, and I've been with the Morningside chapter of ODK since 2008, currently serving as the circle coordinator.
Hi, I'm Tim. I'm a senior at Morningside. I was inducted 3 years ago, and in the past 3 years, I've held 3 executive positions. I've been a co-VP of Honors Convocation, co-VP of Into the Streets, and in this past year, I've had the honor to serve as the Circle President.
Hello, my name is Trey Klunder, and I'm also a senior at Morningside College. I've been a member of ODK for about 2 years now, and I've been a part of the executive team with planning our Dean's List reception as a co-VP. So yes.
Great, thank you. So I'm going to do a screen share at this moment. And this is simply the document that we sent into, it's in the shareable things. So there's our pictures. And what we want to talk about today is an existing leadership program. We were having some meetings a few years ago where we kind of did business as usual, and it didn't seem like we were kind of having content of our meetings. We would like vote on student members, et cetera. So we wanted to create this concept. We want to talk about this existing leadership development program. And then we really want you to be able to think about what this might look like at your college. It doesn't necessarily have to follow this pattern, but what might leadership development look like at your circle? So here is the agenda. We've got everybody introduced. And so I'm going to turn it over to Greg right now, who's going to talk about this specific leadership development program.
Thank you, Leslie. As I said, I've been involved with Morningside Circle since 2008, and I've been very proud to be a member of this circle because it has long had a reputation for being quite active. Our chapter, in fact, has a reputation for demonstrating leadership on campus through a series of signature events through the year. For instance, every fall semester, our chapter sponsors a faculty appreciation dinner. ODK members plan a menu, shop for ingredients, and prepare a meal for faculty to thank them for their efforts on behalf of students. In the spring, we sponsor both a Dean's List ceremony and an honors convocation, recognizing academic achievement on campus. However, our ODK Circle is probably best known locally for its Into the Streets event, which annually brings together the majority of our students, faculty, and staff for a day of volunteering off campus with local nonprofits and the like. Certainly, that would seem sufficient to check all the right boxes for leadership and participation among our members. However, while we as a chapter seem to provide sufficient activities to demonstrate good leadership skills, we began to wonder whether we were doing enough to intentionally develop enhanced leadership skills. Thus was born the Leadership Book Club. For 2 years now, the book club has become an integral part of our regular ODK meetings. And I believe Trey and Tim are going to be kind of giving the rundown of how it works, but I do want to emphasize one aspect of this. We divide the chapters of the whatever book we've chosen among the circle officers, and they're expected to present these to the general membership. However, the overriding expectation is that they will do so in a way that encourages active participation within the larger group with the material. So with that brief introduction, I'm going to turn it over to Tim and Trey.
Yes, so in the past couple of years, we've done a couple of different books. Last year's Do the Work, and then this year's Monday Morning Choices. And basically, we also wanted to look and see how the process and how leadership development was actually occurring. And you could see this through two different ways. Number one, you could see that the executive team got the chance to learn a skill or learn different skills from the book and the chapters that they went through. And then they got the chance to present those skills to the rest of the circle. So that allowed us to work on our skills to present to our peers. But then additionally, we also wanted to make sure that the circle was getting something out of it. We wanted to see, basically as a leader, you want to see how things can be improved and then rally people around you to move forward towards that better vision. And some of the ways that we found were the best to try to get people to get something is by doing our presentations in different ways. Each executive got their choice on how they did their presentation, and we also typically worked with another executive. In my presentation that Leslie can pull up, I worked with another executive, and this is actually her PowerPoint. I decided to go without a PowerPoint, but what her thing was about is the commitment choice, is choosing to commit and then following through with it. And so after we went through the PowerPoint, we had them, she pulls up the last slide, you got with a commitment buddy. So you found someone in the room that you didn't really know or didn't regularly hang out with. So someone that you probably weren't sitting by at that time. And you really introduced yourself and then introduced something fun about yourself. And as you can see, there's a few slides back there where they kind of reference The Office. And so we'd like to make the presentations fun as well. We felt that they got more out of it when they were having fun and were engaged, and it added something to our meetings by doing that. But then overall, what they got out of it was sharing their goals and how they were going to achieve their goals. So they were able to develop their leadership by first setting a plan and a vision on how they were going to reach that plan. And then I took over for the next portion, and the portion I had was not playing the victim card, but taking responsibility and taking control of your life and what you do with it. And the way I demonstrated this was I actually found a little Buckeye that my sisters had laying around, and we passed it around the room, and the buck stops here. So then they had the opportunity to say something that they had been putting off, but that they were going to allow the buck to stop with them. And so that way they would pursue and finish that task that they've been putting off.
Okay, so I also presented a different chapter. Leslie, could you pull up the slide for me, please? Of Monday Morning Choices. And me and one of the other co-VPs got assigned this chapter. So it's about taking enthusiastic approach. So I started off kind of with something engaging, kind of a quote that to get our members' brains all warmed up. And I also included some kind of like funny cartoons to kind of get them, into it, because our meetings are usually on Sunday nights. So we try to get our members engaged and stuff. So we talked about how important it was to make enthusiastic choices. So, like you can see right here, I have two different like corporate meetings, and one of them looks exciting. The other one looks like one you wouldn't want to be in. So we kind of talked about how we can change things to make it more fun and make everyone else more enthusiastic. And then We also talked about reasons why people aren't enthusiastic. And I always try to include visuals and stuff to make our members, so they're not just looking at words. And the other person who made the second half of it, so we divided up both chapters. We had 2 chapters, and I took the first one, and then Faith took the second one. And she also kind of did the same thing, making sure she had a picture and different things on there to make it kind of more engaging for our members. Talking about different things to make better choices on Monday mornings. So yeah, that's kind of just a brief overview.
Great. I'm going to show you another one where a student brought in some Google slide, or did an interactive thing here using, I think it's, you say it's Slido. These were 2 people who took the kind of the last chapters, and they ended up using this product called Slido, where they could have the students engage right away by answering the questions on this platform. And through that, they were able to engage the people in the circle right then and get some feedback and go right into discussion mode. Another thing that people did was a Kahoot. And I'm sure you're all familiar with the Kahoot, but they were able to ask the questions, and then it plays the music, and you get real-time responses to each of these quiz questions. Again, just another way to get folks engaged in the activity. So something that we did learn from the students was we did a quick overview. What did you learn from these presentations? And you can see that for them, I just chose a few randomly. They like the Kahoots, the polls, the games, the questions, the engaging activities, so that they could feel like they weren't just being talked at. And what did they learn about leadership? A positive attitude, the right mindset, determination. Don't just sit back and watch, make sure that you're doing things. So these are all the things that I think that utilizing this book club gave the executive team an opportunity to work on their own presentation skills and engage, because when they leave campus and whatever job they get, there's the possibility that they might have to lead something in their own organization. So it gave them some practice doing that. It also gave the circle membership a way to engage with the executive team and build some leadership skills. So what we'd like to do right now, and I don't know how many people we have in the session. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Anyway, there's probably enough for a couple of breakout sessions. There's a packet that I could actually put, it was given to you, but I'll go ahead and put it in the chat. In fact, I'm going to stop screen sharing here. So if you look in the chat, I've given you access to the Google Doc in case you didn't have an opportunity to download it from the presentation page on EventMobi. And what we'll do is we'll separate into 2, and we'll separate Trey and Tim and Greg and I. And what I'd like you to do in this small breakout room is to go through the worksheet. I want you to think about what kinds of goals and objectives you might have for your own circle, and then think about ways that you could develop some kind of leadership program. Ours lasted over the 2 semesters. We began in the fall and just finished up in the spring. So something that you might be able to create for your own circle. So I know we have our tech guru who can separate us out. And if you can join, we'll be in the breakout room for 5 to 10 minutes or so.
What school are you from? Whoops, you're muted. You got your mute on.
Are you talking to me?
No, Calicia.
Oh, okay, sorry.
I'm at Austin Peay State University.
Okay. So in Tennessee with me, I'm at Middle Tennessee with Nathan down there who's clapping and thumbs up.
Great. Well, welcome back. What I'd like to do now is kind of do a share session. So maybe something you learned, something you'd like to try, something you'd like to share that you've done. So let's start with, who would like to go first? I'll just take a random anybody.
Well, I do have a question, if that's all right. I joined this session because the idea of a book was a really good idea. I liked it. I tried to actually get the members to buy in on it. They all said that they were too busy. So they were willing to read a few articles. Did you make this a requirement for being on the executive board?
Yes.
Okay.
But
And may I ask you, how many members do you have in your circle?
Our circle is probably 30 to 40 members, and our executive team is 9 or 10. Tim, how many are on the exec team?
I believe 10.
10. So we have 10 executives, and they each got assigned a chapter. I mean, they had to read the whole book, but then they each had to present on certain chapters. So, and we split it over the whole year. So some did it in the fall and some did it in the spring.
Thank you.
And it was short. It was a small, small book.
I wanted to add that, yeah, it's like 173 pages, and the text wasn't like terribly hard to read. Honestly, I had more fun reading it than doing any of the other work. And maybe my suggestion would just be to present it as that. The book we had last year, Do the Work, was actually, it seemed a lot shorter. And I think both ways, I had no problem really reading it. We have a meeting
98 pages long.
We have a meeting like once or twice a month. So reading a chapter in between there didn't seem like wasn't too difficult for me. And it just for me, it just had to be presented as, hey, it's only 30 pages every 2 weeks. And that was something that I could definitely manage. And by the time I got halfway through the book, I was already skipping ahead of where we were at in our presentations because I was enjoying reading and learning.
Could I interject a moment?
Mm-hmm.
I think one way to approach this, and I think it's the way we initially approached this whole project, was to not present it as extra work, obviously, but to emphasize what the presenters will be getting out of it, and by extension, what the general leadership will be getting out of it. I mean, again, this is to intentionally develop enhanced leadership skills, and those will carry into, their post-graduation lives. So there's real benefit that you could try to sell to convince your members to perhaps embrace something like this.
And kind of like off of what Greg said, for me, being a senior, and last semester I was student teaching, and I have a teaching job lined up. Learning how to be a leader myself is a good way to teach my students how to be a leader in the classroom, even at the first, second grade, elementary level. So for me, that was a very motivating factors for future leadership opportunities, learning how to be a leader. So.
Good. Other comments or things folks would like to share or talk about?
I'd like to share something that came up in our breakout room, and that this was something apparently that Middle Tennessee State is doing. They have a leadership lending library that they are slowly building, and I thought that was, an interesting idea, and perhaps one we want to replicate at Morningside now that we're accumulating this reading list.
Right, and we did hear about that. I think the two Middle Tennessee folks split the session, so we heard a little bit about that too. And the ideas for that would then also to be, could we get the speakers in the book, the authors, to come in and talk? And a couple of years ago at our circle, we did an ODK speaker series. Unfortunately, that speaker was delayed or couldn't make it because of a snowstorm. Right. So that was an early use of a Zoom session that we just had that person come in visually. But I think that's a great idea to have it kind of on layers, right? You have this lending library, then you have a select book for the executive team to work on. Then you have conversations that you can utilize across campus, not even just in your circle, but maybe across campus. And then maybe you have the speaker come in as a kind of a capstone to that particular book selection for the year.
Mhm.
And also, I'm Nathan Wall. I'm the president of the MTSU's chapter of Omicron Delta Kappa. And also it gives you an opportunity to engage not only the speakers that you engage, but also other leaders in the community and other faculty and other students in ODK. So, and it gives you a physical presence on campus with that. You know, it doesn't have to be huge. Ours happened to start off as just a bookshelf inside of one of the common rooms inside of our honors college, but it's changed to a section within the honors library itself. And then, but anyway, it's a physical location that gives somebody an idea to tie themselves to a cherished part of their university experience. So I think it's a great idea to connect with physically also the university itself, especially at times like this.
Great, thank you for that. That's really, I think it's wonderful too. How many books do you have currently in your lending library?
I would say that now you just missed Susan, I think. I don't see that she's still on the call, but she is managing it. And as we take them in, it's continuously growing. I think we are at over 100 now.
Wow.
So we are linking, we are concentrating. Okay, so when we started this, as I said, it was a small idea. We chose to apply for the Clay Grant, and we got the Clay Grant for this. So we are obtaining books on leadership, but we're concentrating on diversity. So we're looking at specific books that don't necessarily come from where you would expect them to come from. So we've got over 100 right now, but the thing about what they each have meaning to the people that are giving them to us. So we are putting their names in that they donated the book. So that's another way that as it grows, it will still have that personalized dedication of this book to the library.
That's really cool. That just made me think that maybe we could send out letters to our ODK alums and say, we are building a lending library. If you have a book that you think would be valuable, we would love to have you donate that book to the library. And that way you get some interactivity with an alum as well.
Yes, I would very much like to see this idea replicated as many places as possible, as many campuses, because I think it's a great idea. I think it will help increase cohesiveness within ODK and the university campus that it's on.
Mm-hmm. Good. I like that you're doing something with diversity too. One of the pieces of feedback that we got on our survey from our circle membership was, I said, what would be something you'd like to read about next year? And someone recommended something with regard to diversity, equity, inclusivity. So I think we will look for some kind of leadership book regarding that topic and make sure that we've got some interactivity on our circle for that next year. So if anybody has any good suggestions, I'd love to hear them.
Well, my personal suggestion was John Lewis's trilogy of graphic novel. And I know that it might not be specifically at college level, but I think it's important to bring that voice specifically at this time to the present situations that we've gone through in the past year. But I look forward to, if you would like to hear whose ideas came forward, Susan Lyons, again, is a great resource to contact for what people thought and why they thought the books in particular that they've already given were important.
Nathan, speaking as a historian, I totally agree with you on John Lewis's trilogy of graphic novels. And I think it is very appropriate for a college audience.
Wonderful. Is there anything else is there anything else that anyone would like to share? Okay, I think that I learned a lot from you, and I'm so glad that we had the opportunity to have this group talk in this format. I like the Zoom that I can see everybody who's here, and we have the as much interactivity as we possibly can. So thank you for joining.
Leslie,
and if you do have any, yes, go ahead, Greg.
Sorry, I'd like to know where Kent, what circle Kent is representing.
Ferris State University.
Hmm.
Are you familiar with the Mitten? It's in Michigan. Okay, the Lower Peninsula looks like the right hand.
Right.
All right, we're around here. Okay, we're this is here where Ann Arbor is there. That's where University of Michigan is. Detroit. We're like 60 miles due north of Grand Rapids. We're on the western part of Michigan, and we're #1 in COVID right now. Okay, so I just it's not one of those things that we're really proud of, but you know, welcome to Western Michigan. Okay, this is where we are.
Listen, Sioux City, Iowa was #1 for a good long time, and we weren't terribly proud of it either.
Well, you know, we've got that. Okay, we have a problem getting people who are willing to get vaccinated. We have vaccines, all right? It's just that they don't want to take it. I was speaking to one of my advisees who's pre-pharmacy, and she's not willing to take it yet. And I'm thinking, but you're going into pharmacy. Do you not understand the illogic to that? It's like, there's some things I have to keep quiet, you know?
Yes.
Yep.
But I'm sorry I don't want to monopolize, but I do have 3 questions.
Okay.
All right, first to Leslie and to Greg. How did you pick your books and who pays for it?
The first book I picked, the second book was recommended by a former executive team member. And then the next book we'll just continue getting recommendations from the students because I'd like them to have the opportunity to choose books or recommend for the next set of executives. Paid for, that I did.
Out of your own pocket or out of ODK's?
No, I paid for them out of my own pocket.
God bless you. God bless you. And the other question I have is for Nathan. Nathan, how do you encourage students to actually use the library? My students keep complaining they have no time.
Well, right now, the library is in process of being, put up. So we initially, like I said, we had the books out in one of the common areas at the Honors College. And right now, we've actually set them back into Susan's office because they were concerned that they might not get checked out, but just taken. So we don't want to confuse people about the process. I believe the Walker Library is going to actually assign a graduate student to manage the transition from being a simple library to being an extension of Honors College and a lending library. So what I would say was that as we engage with the public, I think that the more people that realize that this part of the leadership lending library exists, then the more we'll engage in finding out what they need to know. Okay. Just by speaking to you today about the lending library, does it seem like it was something that you would want to be involved in?
I'll be very honest with you. This is our 50th year. The Circle was founded, and in the beginning it was very big, and now it has diminished significantly. We are at the point where, frankly, I have to work very, very hard to keep the membership up. And I'm doing a lot of the work, not the members. And I'm trying to get them to do more of the work. But somehow we have lost our way. I mean, that's really what it is. And so, yes, it's one of those things I would like to have in the future, but it's not my immediate goal at this point.
I believe that, first of all, I think Leslie and Greg have done a great job in engagement and in showing a project-oriented engagement. And Tim and Trey have shown the repercussions of that engagement, of setting a program, setting goals, and realizing those goals together. I think that's a great template. I think our template is a little bit less formed, and we are starting to develop hopefully a program that will be a legacy program for ODK at MTSU. So I think that as we show up more visibly on campus physically, then people will ask more questions and be more engaged with the physical aspect of ODK and that lending library. Susan, do you have anything to add?
Well, I think the biggest component of the lending library is that we're partnering with our main library on campus. And so basically they're going to be doing the work of actually overseeing what's checked out in the library. All we're going to do once it's established is come up with programming. And so for us, I heard your comment before I got kicked out, but about getting students to read books and how difficult that is and whatever. So I think what we're going to do is start with maybe some brown bag lunches and invite different faculty on campus to come and talk about maybe their favorite leadership book, or, you know, just have lessons in leadership, brown bag lunches kind of things, and highlight some book that we have. That way the students can just stop by. It doesn't take any premeditated thought or work on their part to come and learn, maybe spark some interest, and they may say, oh gosh, I would like to read that book. Even if it's just that they begin to keep a list of books on their phone that in the summer they want to try to read some of those things. You know, that's fine as well. So basically it's a huge project, but it's going to be taken over by the library. So even though our name is going to be on it, that's just going to get our name out there. After that, we're just going to worry about programming, you know, small events around it. So.
Thank you.
And two, I will tell you, our circle is not nearly as old as yours. What university are you from?
Ferris State University.
Okay, and where's that?
Western part of Michigan.
Okay, okay.
About 50 to 60 miles north of Grand Rapids.
Gotcha. We're only 11 years old, but still you see this up and down. You know, you have high points where you have a lot of members, and then you drop off and have low points, and there's a rebuilding time. That's kind of standard. I've been running this circle for 8 years now, and we've certainly seen that through those 8 years. So I think this is a program that can be our signature program with our name on it. But eventually, once we pass it on to the library, it's going to be very little physical work on our part besides doing some programming events. So find a partner. All that said, partner with somebody.
There's a lot of work for me this summer. I can tell you that right now. After this conference, it's like there's a lot of work for me.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a wonderful thing about this conference is you come in going, I'm so excited, and you leave going, oh my gosh, there's so much to do.
I've written down, oh, I keep saying, that's a great idea. That's a great idea. That's a great idea. But start small, you know, don't do everything at once. Pick one thing. And we did an event called True Blue Leadership Day, and we did that for about 5 years. And I killed myself putting that event on. I had 5 speakers come from all over. I had the head of Tennessee Bureau of Investigations. I had a Tennessee Supreme Court judge. I had social workers. I had medical people. I had business leaders. I had nonprofit. And so every time I would build one of these sessions each year, I would have 5 different types of leaders. that would appeal to different students on campus. And I personally sent out letters that our president signed. So it looked like they came from the president, which he supported, to the Greek system and to all student organizations. And it was addressed to them personally. I spent hours and hours and hours and maybe got 10 people in each session. I mean, I was just killing myself.
Yep.
And the
Yep.
sessions were fantastic. And I would sit there and listen to these sessions going, they need to hear this. They need to learn this. Then I would, if I had the TBI guy there, I would call criminal justice and they would say, oh, that is a great opportunity. And then they would give their students extra credit if they would come, but still that was all this extra work on my part. I had to go out and physically drag people in. It's exhausting. And you get to the point where you throw your hands up and you say, I don't know what else I'm going to do.
You know what's worse? The worst thing about it is, I'm going to tell you the truth. We tried doing the same thing. We call it dog talks because we're the bulldogs.
Mm-hmm.
The worst thing was we embarrassed the speakers because there were so few people who actually showed up. I was embarrassed for them.
Right.
And
I have been there. I know. And I have run through our honors college and I have grabbed people sitting there and offered them whatever I could offer them. I have had deans come in and sit down because I need bodies in seats. It's an awful feeling to invite a speaker and then no one's there. It's embarrassing and humiliating, and I know, which is why if you can get professors or other people to give extra credit or that's
that's what it comes down to. What I find really embarrassing is that two of our biggest events on campus is the hypnotist and the comedian, and so it's like an anti-intellectual thinking on campus.
I know.
And our mission statement is, finding jobs, basically finding jobs. So if it doesn't really pertain to finding your job, if you don't think of it more broadly, but you think of it very narrowly, they're not going to show up. So
I know. And I say all the time, I feel bad for students nowadays because they are bombarded with emails. Come to this, do this, you can go here, you can see this. And we are too, as the adults. I mean, how many things do we tune out a day because we just can't process that much information? And that's part of it as well, which is kind of why I like this leadership library, because once we get it up and going, it's passive for us. Beyond having, and the room that we'll hold these talks in is a very small room. So if I can just get 4 or 5 people there, then I'm good. So I know it's very hard. And I will say that a lot of times the key is in the executive board that you have. I have an executive board this year who's done a phenomenal job, and I've been able to just let go of a lot of things and they've done it on their own.
I think you're right, Susan. We have had a really phenomenal executive team this year. And I think in order to get things happening, they have to champion their specific program. So for example, Tim, as president, got to do a unique program, whatever he wanted to, and he chose this leadership workshop. And it was up to Tim to make the connection on campus, to secure funding from the president of the college, to set up the room, to get people there, to organize it. And I think that was a challenge for Tim, and he would meet with me periodically just to touch base, but I did nothing. It was all up to Tim, and he ended up having, I think there were 15 people in the room, and how many were on Zoom?
There were a couple.
So yeah, so that was a pretty good turnout for a very small college, right?
Right.
And with social distancing, it worked out really well.
And I always do make it a point to say, these are things that you can include on your resume. I will help you write them up for your resume to show and highlight what you really have done for this organization. So use it to your advantage. So I get the whole job part of it as well.
Yeah.
It's hard. There's a lot of competition. There's no easy way, and you get burned out.
Yeah.
Definitely, and beat down.
Yeah.
Well, Susan, do you remember when I was project coordinator when we did stormwater?
Mhm.
I felt like that's a good example for Kent as well, is looking at what resources are in your region that are preset to create leadership opportunities for groups. Look at something where you don't have to do the work to create the program, but you participate with a bigger organization like the national parks or something like that, that has something available that, you know, small scale, each individual can scale up on that by themselves. If we get 3 people to be involved with that, then those 3 people have created an opportunity to utilize more effectively 18 more volunteers. So we're not just creating an opportunity for ourselves, we're making each of our volunteers more valuable in the effort that's ongoing. So we're creating a reason to show why leadership matters and how to do it in a real world function. So that is job related, and that is how you engage in a networking type of situation in the community that allows you or your members to become more adept at leadership, real world.
Thank you.
And you don't have to reinvent the wheel.
I do have another job, you know.
Exactly. I know, that's what I said. I said that in my office this week. I said, this takes so much of my time, even with a great executive board. You know, it takes a tremendous amount of effort on my part.
Leslie earlier asked how many books we have. Do you have an answer?
Right now, we have about 100 books. I have a clay grant for $500 that I haven't used yet. We have money in our account that I haven't used yet. And I have a dean down the hall that I haven't used yet. But I will, because every time I go in his office, he says, how much money do you want now? So between all those resources, and that's something else, because this is going to benefit the campus, I'm going to go to other groups on campus, particularly student organizations, and partner, you know, bring them in as a partner, because they're over all the organizations on campus, including the Greek life. And this is also a resource for all of them. So, you know, we can apply for funds through them as well. So we'll continue to build it and, you know, see where we go from there.
Well, I hope you all had an opportunity to think through some potential programming opportunities that might benefit leadership on your campus for your circle, even if it's small scale or I mean, we're a small college, a small group to a larger college. And I hope that you have maybe some ideas that you can bring back to other circle leaders and do some idea generation of your own to see what might work. Once they take ownership, the students take ownership of something, I think that moving forward is a lot easier. So
yeah, that's the key. Absolutely.
Okay. Well, thank you for your time. I think that kind of wraps up the session, and you can find information for us on the Morningside website. In fact, if you go to the ODK site, I'm a member of the Board of Trustees also, so you can find my name there under the board and contact me, and I can put you in touch with Greg or Trey or Tim.
As a reminder,
Thank you.
Thank you. And on your website, does it show your executive board and what positions you have? We just have 4. So I want to know what 10 you have, because the more that I can get on the executive board, the better.
On the ODK site, if you look up the Morningside Circle, it only lists, there's only opportunity to list a couple.
Okay.
And we don't necessarily have a website for ODK on our campus that lists all of our board members, but we do have 10. Okay. And every one of our programs either has a chair or a co-chair, or VP is what we call them. And then those people are responsible for conducting the entire program, okay, and they just report back to us.
Gotcha.
So.
Gotcha. Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Yes, thank you. And Eva Maria says, make sure you fill out the evaluation form too. Okay.